I've finished slip stitching the front portion of my lining to my facing, which is great. There's my little pleat at the bottom. And I thought it would be fun to go ahead and machine stitch the back portion. Remember, I talked about that earlier. And as long as you put appropriate colored thread for your fashion fabric in the bobbin, and I have my lining thread in the top, it actually worked out pretty nicely, if I do say so. I think this is nice. I still have, you can still see that tiny little bit of edge of the fashion fabric, which I like. And even though this is an underlap, and I'm not going to see this machine stitching, I thought, wow, that was a whole lot quicker than slip stitching it. So, you know, if you want to do that, go ahead. It's totally personal preference. So I prepped my back lining. Now, in your jacket, do both of your fronts first before you do the lining in the back. I have not done the lining on my other front, so it's a little different. You're going to see unfinished on the other side. However, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the lining in the back. Once again, I have turned up 5/8 of an inch, and I did a scant or short 5/8 of an inch. I turned that up, and when my lining is just laying on my jacket, once again, a thing to remember is that if your lining is the same length of your jacket, once you've turned up your 5/8 of an inch, you're in really good shape. So, it's the length of my jacket. Here's my center back seam. Here's my center back seam on my jacket. And remember what we did with the front. I take the cut edge of the folded up section and line it up with the cut edge of my jacket. Lay it down like that. I'm going to start at the center because I want to make sure that my center back seam is lined up. And I think I'm going to, never mind, I'm going to go ahead and just pin the rest of this in place. And I will slip stitch this once again. So I'm lining up cut edge of lining to cut edge of my hem allowance. And since again, if you had to adjust your hem any, I also go back and look at the distance that I have here. And I want that to be the same all the way across the bottom of my jacket. Pinning it, and once again I want to stitch this bottom section and have that all slip stitched before I move on to the next. But I'm going to show you the next part before I slip stitch this, just so that you can see. So I still have my pin, whoops, you can't see that. I still have my pin up here at holding my seam line at my seam line to my jacket. And I want to make sure that my vent is laying flat and the way it should lay down. Because what I need to do now is smooth my lining down. We're going to end up stitching up here at the top of the vent. I'm going to put a pin in and hold that lining. It covers the raw edge of the top of the lining on the underlap of the vent. And then I am going to bring my lining down right next to my underlap. And I'm going to pin it in place. And as I work down towards the bottom, you'll see, I'm going to pin it in place for you even though I haven't stitched, you'll see that you're going to end up with a small pleat down at the bottom as well. Now, here's something that I'm noticing. See how on my overlap, how it's wider up here and narrower down here? I don't like that. I want it to be the same distance. So before I sew this bottom, I'm going to go back and repress on this side. And press it back because I want to see that same distance all the way down on the overlap, sorry, on the back piece, because it's just going to be neater. So I want it, without pressing it right now, to show you, finger pressing it, I want it to look like that. And if I leave it where it's pressed, it does that, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I also don't really want, because I want it to line up. I want my vent, when my vent lays flat the way it should, it does overlap about, as you can see, that much, about where my lining lines up here at the top. And down at the bottom, it could just be, oh, I'm not sure why. It could be that I stretched my lining when I pressed my hem down here a little bit. I'm not sure what it is, but this is easily fixable. To go back and make sure that you've got the same amount of your fashion fabric showing all the way down the side of this vent, the overlap of your vent, which is on the back piece. So I'm going to go press this and come back and show you how it should look.